Hey, it's Alan here.
And Bree. And
And
we
we
are
are
the hunter and the hippie.
Connected through yoga and bonded by our love of the wild places and the love for outdoors, we've come together to share our conversations about life.
Well, maybe more so what we've learned or are continuing to learn about life.
And there's no one way to do it. Life, that is.
And hopefully provide you with some teeny tiny bits of inspiration to connect deeper with yourself, others, and our great Mother Earth.
All right. Enough already about the podcast. Let's just get to the podcast. Hey.
Well, hey, it's been a while.
It has been a hot minute.
Alaska.
So much has happened in between.
Hunting. All of the things.
All the things. Yeah, so much has happened. You know what though? I really it's been crazy at work and it's been crazy traveling. So I would love some breath work if that's cool with you.
Oh, okay.
So I am selfishly requesting to breathe a little bit maybe before we get talking, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, that's great.
All right, let's do it.
All right, so finding whatever position is most comfortable for you in whatever situation you're in, and then closing your eyes or softening the gaze. And let's just take 3 deep inhales through the nose and big open mouth exhale sighs. So deep inhale, fill all the way up. And big exhale sigh. And again, breathing in and letting it go. And one more time, filling up and releasing out. And then sealing your lips and moving your breath just through your nose. Beginning to slow down the inhales and exhales. Beginning to feel the impact of your breath on your body. Noticing what changes and what might stay the same. And then begin to lengthen your exhales to be longer than your inhales. Without strain or struggle, just slowing down as you breathe out. Then notice the impact of slowing down your exhales. Again, whether that's something or nothing, just observing your exhale. And feeling it throughout your body. And maybe even allowing the nature of your exhale to soften any worries, tensions, anticipations, or expectations. Allowing these long, slow exhales to pour over your whole body and mind. Releasing whatever you no longer need. allowing it to melt away. And finishing our breathing with 3 more inhales through the nose and open mouth exhales to let go of anything else you're holding on to. So deep breath in, exhale out the mouth. And again, taking in and giving back. One last time, breathing in and letting go. When you feel ready, slowly fluttering your eyes open.
Thank you. Feeling a bit better. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. That's what it's there for.
Yes. Man, it's been crazy. We spent so in like the last I haven't included but I spent over a 30-day period. I was at home like 5 days, something like that. And it's pretty wild when you haven't done that in a long time, because like last year we didn't travel really because of the pandemic, and we weren't allowed to travel, which is stupid. But yeah, so being away from home was pretty crazy. We spent 12 days in Alaska, and Alaska's beautiful. Have you ever been?
No, nope.
You gotta go.
Yeah, I know. I was supposed to go this year. It's gonna be next year.
You gotta go.
Yeah.
Colorado is amazing. It has nothing on Alaska. Like,
Yeah.
Alaska is next level. Yeah, I don't even know. Like the beauty, it never stops amazing you. And it rained 9 of the 12 days that we were there. And it was still unbelievable. We spent some time up in Denali. We hiked around Denali National Park as well. Went up to Fairbanks, Chena Hot Springs. You and I have talked about that a little bit. It's out there. It's definitely we drove. So you don't realize how big Alaska is either. We drove 1,600 plus miles in the 12 days that we were there. And we drove all the way up to Fairbanks, out to Chena Hot Springs. Chena Hot Springs is even further than Fairbanks. And it was really funny when the day we got to Fairbanks, my buddy had texted me and he was like, "Hey, I know you're in Alaska. You should go check out this place called Gold Daughters." And I'd never heard of it. And I was like, I looked at the message and I was like, all right, yeah, I'll look into that. And we come out of where we were, and I looked across the street, and Gold Daughters was right across the street. And I was like, all right, well, like that's fate of some sort, or just coincidence, who knows? But we were like, let's go check it out. And it's this place where like you can pan for gold. They have like a big mound of dirt, and there's gold in it, and it's just, will you find it or not? And you can buy these cute little bags, and there's guaranteed gold in it. So we did a little of that. We did some gold panning. Took it back old school to why people eventually settled in Alaska for gold mining. And it was a cool experience. They also have a lot of old fossils there. Some like woolly mammoth tusks and bones, and pretty cool place. And then we ended up going down south to the Kenai Peninsula. We went to the Kenai Fjords National Park, hiked a little bit around there, and then we went on a boat tour, an all-day boat tour, where like they take you to see glaciers and the Kenai Fjords through, by sea. Got to see puffins. Puffins are so freaking cute. And, they're apparently, so like they're adorable. And when you see them try to fly, they're like these fat little birds that like really can't fly that well. Apparently they're not fat, but their bones are really dense and they weren't made to fly really well. So they're adorable though, and they like dive down to eat their food in the water. They're so cute. Yeah, we hiked around a bunch. We did a lot. We camped. Our aunt has a Westfalia Volkswagen camper van, and we ended up camping for 2 nights in that little pop up, and that was so fun. And just camped on the water by the Resurrection Bay in Seward. And it was beautiful. And then back to Anchorage, spent some time with family. So Jess has family up there, and yeah, it was hands down one of my favorite places. I've never spent any time during the summer there. I spent 2 weeks in the winter up there, and I loved it then. And the summer is just even more incredible. My wife says 9 months of winter gets old though, so I keep telling her I'd live there. But she's like, yeah, not happening. She's like, you'd be living there without me.
Oh. Seasonal.
Yeah. Right. So yeah, it was really fun. We actually did a plane tour where we got on a little bush plane and flew to Denali, and we like flew around and got to see the peak of Denali up close and personal, and that was incredible. Flying like so close to some of the other peaks and the rocks, and it was unreal. There's actually a cabin, or like almost like a resort style cabin in the middle of, I don't even know what it's called, but it's in the middle of Denali. The only way to access it is by bush plane. You could see like where the planes land in the snow, and apparently like you have to hike. Like once you land, you still have to hike to it. Okay. And it's like a good hike, and you have to like climb a bit. And apparently the pilot was like, the house sits like 1,500 feet off of the ground on like rock. And he's like, yeah, if you just take like one misstep, you're just like fall to your death off of like the back patio. But incredible place. Yeah, we flew all over it and got to fly back. And my niece was with us. She got to fly the plane. So she loved that. Yeah. And like he gave her the controls and like pretty much let her fly the entire trip. Like he was there, of course, doing what he needed to do. But it was a fun time. You got to make it out.
Yeah.
Didn't get to do any fishing, sadly. I told my wife. So my cousin, or her cousin's getting married, and we're supposedly going back next year. We'll see. So I was like, I'm fishing the whole time. I was like, I'm going to the wedding, and I'm fishing. That's it. So we'll see. It'll be fun. And then came back. I was home for 3 days, and then went out elk hunting. And fuck, elk hunting's hard. God, I forgot how hard it is. Definitely got me questioning why I do it. Right?
Yeah.
Like you go out there, and it's not easy. Like it's not. It makes you question everything. It makes you question everything in your life, for sure. And on the drive out there, I text you on the drive out there, and like just even on the way out there, like you really start to clear your mind. You start forgetting about sort of the things in your normal life, like work and all that, and you start thinking about the things that hunting requires, and it was really good, just peace of mind just driving out there for me. And I was really excited because I came up with my theme for next year. Still not sharing what it is. I shared with you. I think you like it. But we'll talk about that on a later episode. And yeah, and then I got to the trailhead and hiked in about 4.5 miles. And I've really done like zero prep for this season for it. Like I haven't been hiking a lot in Colorado at altitude. So the hiking I did in Alaska was great, but it's, like 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet. And I'm starting like trailhead was like 9,000 feet. No, like 8,000. Yeah, because my camp was like 10. And yeah, it was raining. It was pouring rain and hailing as I was hiking in, and I had my rain gear, which was fine. But then it stopped raining. I took my rain gear off, and you're walking through brush.
Yeah, it's all wet.
And the brush is wet, so then all your clothes and your boots get wet, right? And so by the time I set up camp and got into bed, I'm like, shit, my pants are wet, my boots are wet. And I knew it wasn't going to dry overnight. And I'm like, yay, I get to wake up and put on wet pants and put on wet boots. And, right, it's just all a mental game, right? Because, like, you've done it before, and it's just one of those things that you just got to get through it. And, yeah, so I woke up 4:15 the next morning and went to grab my pants, and, like, literally they were dripping wet. Like, there was water dripping off the leg. And I was like, oh, this sucks. And so I put on my pants, put on my wet boots, got up, had my coffee, hiked in the dark up to where I wanted to be, and I just sat at this pond for a long time. And I ended up having so the tag I have in Colorado is a cow or bull tag.
Yeah.
And in Colorado, it has to be 4 points or higher to be a legal bull. And so I really wanted a bull tag, or I really wanted a bull. And I pretty much told myself from the beginning that I wasn't going to shoot a cow. And lo and behold, a cow rolls in, and she's coming down this hill, and she gets like 35 yards, and she's like grazing a bit on this hill.
Yeah.
And she's at 35 yards, and it's so cool. Like, that's one of the coolest things, is just being that close to such a big creature, and them not having a clue that you're there.
Yeah.
And she like looks away, like briefly, like her head turns a little bit and looks away, and I come to full draw. I knew at this point I wasn't going to shoot.
Yeah. And
I just come to full draw because I wanted to see if I could draw without her seeing me. And she saw me, but she didn't spook. She saw motion. She turns back, and she's like looking directly at me, and she's just standing there. 35 yards, broadside, perfect shot. And I had it. I totally had it. And I just sat there for probably 45 seconds at full draw. And then I just let down as she's looking at me. And as I let down, of course, she sees that. And she takes off running.
Yeah.
And in hunting, what is the saying? It's like, don't not shoot something that you would shoot on your last day. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Right. So if you'd shoot it on your last day of the season,
yeah,
shoot it on your first day.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we'll see if I end up regretting this one, but I'm going back out next week. I'm going out next weekend.
Nice.
And yeah, now we're here.
Here we are.
Yeah. How about you? What's been going on with you?
Just been back in Cody, which has been nice. I guess, I don't know the last time we talked. I had gone to South Dakota yet? No, maybe not.
No.
So I was out in the Black Hills for 5 days. And then I actually had a bad sinus infection.
Oh no.
I think it's been really smoky here. And then of course I still try to run and do all the things. And I had been at sea level for 2 weeks, and then I didn't get out the week after I got back from Florida from that training. So I was out of shape for me. I say out of shape, and they're like, why, you ran 60 miles in July? And I'm like, yeah, and I lost it all. Like, not all of it, but I am going to sea level and not doing anything but classroom work. It will put you under for a bit. So,
out of shape is relative, right? Like,
yeah,
it's all relative.
But it's, I think it's good to take breaks. You can't go high intensity all the time. And so I trained for my objective, and I had it timed knowing that going to Florida was going to hit me, and that fire season will always, if it's going to get bad, it's typically in July, August where it gets worse. And I'm very happy with that decision because it's been really smoky here. So anyway, got back and I camped out, like bivvied out in the smoke one night, and then I did a run, and I just, my lungs and my sinuses are not happy, but it's all clear finally. But so took it easy, and then it's just been good to be in Cody and not have to travel after, I mean, as you know, having all fun stuff that I got to travel and stuff that I'm happy about. But it's nice to also just, I have so much I want to explore here and so much I want to do. And I am a bit a woman of routine, especially when you think about like all, like with running and fitness and all of that. It's much easier when you're in your space, in your thing, not having other elements. So, looking forward to just getting that more consistent and get ready for my hunting season, which
it's exciting.
Will be here before I know it. I need to go scout my unit and hopefully go down and do some antelope hunting with my friend, and that will be a good little like intro into.
Antelope hunting is so much fun. I'm so jealous that you have tags for antelope.
Yeah.
You're gonna have such a good time.
Yeah.
It's very much like run and gun style. Like, oh, there's one. All right, we're going to get it. And my advice, like, I don't know who your friend is or how they hunt, but my words of wisdom are just like, get out and walk. Like,
yeah.
So we saw so many people in the unit we were in, like, they would just stay where they were. They wouldn't hike at all. Like, we filled 3 of my tags in one day.
Yeah.
And it was only because we're like, all right, let's just get to the top of that hill. Let's, instead of just looking from the road, let's get to the top of that little hill and glass and see what's out there. And we would just see things. And then we're like, all right, run, like, let's go get it. And it's just, it's so cool. You're going to have such a fun time.
Cool. Yeah. I feel a little overwhelmed just because it's so much. Like, I put in for these tags not knowing what I'd get, and the fact that I got everything. All of them.
Everything.
Like, shoot, that wasn't the plan. So, I maybe in hindsight, just putting in for an elk tag would have been great. So I could like put all my energy into that and like preparing for that. And just because I don't know anything about my unit, I'm not doing something in an area that I'm super familiar with. So I have to figure that out in the next month.
They're 2 very different types of hunts too.
Yeah.
And you're going to say, I don't know where you're hunting antelope, but based on my experiences in hunting antelope and elk it's very different. And antelope is hunting in general isn't easy, but it's easier.
Yeah.
And it's so much more fun because you actually see animals. You see antelope and you're chasing them, and elk is the exact opposite. You don't fucking see them. You walk miles upon miles, and you're just like you just like, and that's the thing with elk. If you could just see them, you would just have so much more fun. But like where I go hunting in Colorado, it's so dense, and you don't see shit. Like, you see these professional hunters sitting there looking through their glass, looking through their spotting scopes, and I'm like, what the fuck are you looking at? Like, I get a 35-yard view, and that's about it. And, so I'm excited for you, though.
Yeah, it'll be good.
I'm excited you bit off more than you can chew.
Yeah. I know I shot my rifle for the first time last week.
Cool. How'd it go?
But it was after I didn't get a lot of sleep and I feel like my mind was not in the mindset for it. It went okay. It was fine. I'm going to get out and obviously shoot a few more times. But
what are you shooting?
270.
Oh, beautiful. I love that round.
It has a bit more recoil. Like, it definitely has more kick than I expected. I think because it's a lighter rifle. And so I had shot with my friend's 30-06, and I expected it to be similar, but this one definitely, the 270, I felt more.
Interesting.
So
it probably has to do with the weight.
So I was like, whoa, okay. Oh, wow.
It could be user, right? Like, it could be the way you were holding it. Doubtful, but right, there's always the human element to it. But I would say if you know it's lighter, like, especially like the difference of like a wood stock, like if you shot something that was a wood stock versus like a synthetic wood stocks are great because they're so heavy and they absorb so much of the impact. Where synthetic it's built to be light and
so
and light's great for elk hunting when you're lugging the thing around the entire forest.
Yeah.
But when you have to pull the trigger, it's rough.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'll get out. I was going to get out this week again. Just gotta dial it in. So.
Cool. That's exciting. 270 is so I've already been through this, right? I grew up in New York. Guns are bad. Went out to Arizona, and my friend's father, that's the very first rifle I ever shot, was a 270. Yeah. And I remember shooting it and being hooked after that. And so 270 is one of my favorite rounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got so set on it. Like, I think it's like I listened to some podcasts. I like talked to a lot of people. And I had, I feel like a few people really pushed the 270. And so I think I just got fixated on it. And I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. That's what I went with. It's hard when you can't shoot a rifle before you buy it.
Right.
So, I'm excited. I think it'll be good. It's funny to reflect and be like, why was I so fixated on that? And sometimes there's just certain people plant that seed and then you're like, no, this is what I'm getting, even though, like, again, the 30-06 was great. Like, I felt actually really good shooting it. But here we are.
It's funny how that works. And people, right? Like, everyone is going to have their opinion on their round of choice.
Yeah.
And right, like, people say 270 isn't enough, and oh, you need this, and oh, you need that, and like, in all my like experience, which isn't a lot, is just shoot what the fuck you're comfortable shooting. Like, like that's it. Like, get out there and shoot, and the round doesn't matter, right? Like, unless you're shooting something like. Don't go out there and try to shoot a 30-30, like an elk with a 30-30 or something. But, right, like, just as long as you can get the distance and you practice shooting with it and you're comfortable, it's gonna do great, right? As long as you're confident with it, that's the key.
Yeah. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear more. I can't wait to hear about your hunting season.
Oh boy.
Were you shooting out? How far were you shooting out to?
100 yards.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yep. So I'll go back and I'll do some 100 yards, and then there's a spot that and it has this, like, I can do 200 yards too. So we'll see. I don't think I want to shoot anything further than 200 yards for my first season.
That's great. That's a good goal.
Do a solid shot, and
200 yards is a good distance, and that's, other factors start coming into play after that, and 200 yards is plenty far.
Not trying to be a hero, just trying to get some meat for the year. I don't need to whatever works the best. That's what I'm doing.
That's cool. That's good. And I'm glad you have some people you're going with, and that's exciting.
Yeah. That'll be really helpful. I mean, I need someone to go with me. So,
the people that you're going with, have they harvested animals before? Have they had to field dress? Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, my friend I'm going antelope hunting with, he's the one who took me rifle shopping, all of that. And and this one of the units I got for antelope, he always goes there with his buddy. So he's like,
nice.
I think he harvested 2 antelopes there last year. So
that's great.
So that's good. And then elk hunting. Yeah, I'll be going. My boyfriend will be coming out from South. Oh man, I don't talk about my personal life, but.
What do you mean? That's all we talk about is our personal lives. Everything comes from our personal lives.
Our personal lives, but some of my personal life is left out of here.
Yes.
But he's
in his archery. I'm so happy to hear you have a boyfriend. Mr. X, that's how we refer to him.
Mystery man.
Mr. X. So
busy evening. Actually, it was super funny. We have in Run Crew, one of my friends, we were talking about white lies, and he said when he once was in the softball league and they wanted him to go to this tournament. Like a travel tournament, and he's like, I'm good with like the weekday softball games, but I don't want to travel to a tournament. And so they were like, hey, like we really need you this weekend, you think you can make it? And he's like, oh no, my wife won't let me. And he's like, I don't even have a wife, I don't know, it just like came out so naturally. And so we have this joke going now, like about like the like fake wife, and then I'm like, everyone probably thinks my boyfriend's fake because he lives in air quotes. Right. Yeah, lives in South Dakota.
Your boyfriend from out of town, right?
Right.
No one's ever met.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, my boyfriend's going to go elk hunting with me.
That's too funny.
But yeah, he's in his archery season right now. And then.
Nice. Any word? Anything?
No, he's been going out every day since he took work off, and since September 1st, and they've been calling some elks in. Mm-hmm. I think they said this morning they just weren't big enough. And then, so like I'd say the last actually few days or so, he's been in the herds, and he's had some
beautiful.
Been seeing some stuff, but some just not close enough or not big enough bulls to kill. So yeah,
nice. That's exciting. Well, sending him best of skill. So hopefully he can take one down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
awesome.
Wow, look at all that ketchup.
I know, it's been great.
And no mustard.
Dad jokes galore.
Oh boy.
I did I tell you? I didn't tell you the jokes. So I called a friend. I'm not going to tell this story, but I called a friend to tell jokes too. I'll tell you the jokes. Do you know why you can't hear a pterodactyl go to the bathroom?
Why?
Well, so there's 2 answers. It's actually a trick joke, and if someone knows the answers, or knows one of the answers is usually, like, people get it. It's because the P is silent.
Oh.
But if they know that, then you say, well, because they're dead, silly.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
I love dad jokes. And then how many South Americans does it take to change a light bulb?
Well, do they go the opposite way? Is it something with the hemispheres? No. Okay. How many?
A Brazilian.
Oh, that's funny. I was like, no, it's not the opposite way.
Yeah. So anyway, dumb dad jokes.
I like that one.
All right, good. I'm glad you like that one. So I also had something crazy happen. I had a friend die.
Okay.
And yeah. It's not like super close friend, but a friend. Mm-hmm. A friend that definitely impacted my life, my wife's life. A friend we were recently talking to about like coming up to Colorado, and with her and her like, I always write like boyfriend. I don't even know what they would call each other because they were together forever.
Yeah.
But they weren't married, so they were probably like common law married, honestly.
Yeah.
But I think she was like 52, and Yeah, I'm not 100% certain. I believe I know how she died, but I'm not 100% certain, and I'm not going to get into that just because it's not for me to talk about. But I've been thinking a lot about death, and in thinking about death, right, like you should be thinking about life, or at least that's what I believe. And yeah, so that's been like on my mind, like looming over me, and it's like thinking about, like you could just wake up and die,
or not wake up,
right? Yeah. And it wasn't, what I can say is like it wasn't suicide. Your mouth just moved, but you didn't say anything. I don't know if that was just a delay in our lovely internet, so I'll just keep talking. Okay. Yeah. So it wasn't like COVID. It wasn't suicide. It wasn't anything like that. But it was very sudden, very unexpected. And yeah, it's pretty wild because like you're here, like we're here having this conversation, and tomorrow we could, one of us or both of us or neither of us could not be, right? And in that, I guess start thinking about, what are you doing with your life, and are you content? Like if you were to die today, like you knew like you were going to die right now, you're like 15 minutes, and like, would you die knowing that you are content with your life? And it's not about like, well, no, I want to be able to do this. And no, like, yeah, we all want to strive to do more, and we're all going to die some point, and it's going to get cut short, right? We're going to miss opportunities to do things. But what I've been thinking about is like right now, like you die right now, everything that you've done, you've accomplished, friends you've made, the friends you've lost. Like, could you die knowing you were content in life?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I feel like I want to say I would be content, but I don't know. And it just makes you think about the things that you do.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting this, like when the pandemic broke out, and so I guess a year and a half, I guess it's been about, right? I had probably in the last year and a half, probably 10 people ranging from people I was close to, acquaintances, teachers, 10 people die. Maybe more at this point. None of them from COVID, actually. And so it actually really altered my perspective on the actions taken within the pandemic and the lockdowns and the shutdowns and not interacting with the people you love. And I know there's, people who have lost family members and loved ones from COVID, so they're going to have a different perspective. And I guess for me, it was like, if something happened to my parents and I didn't go take that trip to see them, me or them would be much, that would hurt much more,
Yeah.
Just how many people were separated from their families and still are, to be honest.
And some of them died without their families, right? Like not able to be with their families, their loved ones, in that time.
Yeah. And so I don't know that. So my birthday was this past weekend, and on my birthday last year, my friend died in a rock climbing accident. So that was something that really kind of, came to mind. And in mid-August was also an anniversary of a friend who passed away a long time ago. And actually a really cool thing, we do this surf we used to do this surf competition for him every year on his birthday. And my lucky hat that I do for all my big adventures, he wore it for the Thoroughfare, is a hat from the 10th anniversary surf competition. But it's starting to like disintegrate, and I'm more selective when I take it out. So I only take it out for really big, where I used to just take it out for like all backpacking trips and things like that. And now I save it for like my big races or my big objectives. And it's kind of a few meanings. One is like, I'm doing it because he can't, because he's not with us anymore. He inspired me to really maximize, right, this time, because he had these plans after college that he didn't get to do. And it's also like he's there, like I feel he's like there, like looking out for me when I have the hat. But so it's been disintegrating, and one of our mutual friends, she reached out to me recently and she's like, what's your address? And she sent me another hat, not the same one, but from one of the other surf competitions we did in honor of his memory. And so, yeah, last week I don't think she even knew it was my birthday or anything, but she sent me a Timmy Dal hat. So now I have a new one that I can wear.
That's awesome.
Yeah, for my big, I'm like, that one like totally go. I mean, I'll hang on to that one, but now I can like keep on all my adventures. So
that's so beautiful. I love it.
Yeah. But I think spot on what you're saying is I guess my relationship with death has changed a lot through my spirituality. And also I think in my lifetime, I've experienced probably a lot more death than most people. I had a lot of people die in college, and then I worked in a cancer hospital. And everyone died. And this year and a half of having it felt like every month someone died. It really, I started to be able to not see I don't know how to say it right, but have an acceptance around death.
Yeah.
Because it's they say it for a reason, but death leads to rebirth. But I think it's like, how can we tend to repeat, and it's part of the grieving and mourning, repeat like all these things of like trying to understand it or make sense of it. And I guess that's my shift with death has been, I no longer try to make sense of it or understand it. But instead I move into that space of how do I want to carry this on? Or what do I want to celebrate? How am I going to live my life based on this experience?
Right.
Because it doesn't make sense a lot of times, and we can't figure it out, and we can't understand it. And it takes away from just being sad about it.
Yeah.
Like just be with the emotions and what you're feeling, instead of trying to make sense of it.
Right. Yeah, I don't think, right, this is a landmark thing, and it's, right, we're meaning making machines, and we want to make meaning out of everything in life, including death. And in my mind, I don't think there is a meaning, right? Like there is, right? When that's what you get from landmark, is that there's no meaning, and death, it just is, and like, yeah, it can make you sad, it can, right? I'm going to say this, but I don't mean it in the sense of like they died and I'm happy, but like death can make you happy, right? It makes you realize, bless you, makes you realize the life that they lived, and in this instance with my friend, the impact that she had on the world is like amazing. And everyone, like her partner and her siblings and her kids are all posting pictures of her, and like they're posting these pictures, and like there's pictures that you see of her, and if you knew her, you look at this picture and you're like, oh my God, I can hear that photo.
Yeah.
And like, that's just the amount of life she had. It was incredible. And so for me, like, I'm not looking for the meaning. And like, while there's definitely sadness, there's also the level of now what, right? Now that, right, like I've always known I'm going to die. And if you don't know that, you're going to die. It's to everyone out there, right? Like, if you don't realize it, you're going to die. And it could be tomorrow. And it could be in 80 years, right? We don't know. And my thought is just, what are you doing to, right, make sure you live? You can, there's a quote that says, what does it say? It's, I can't even remember. It has to do with, if you worry about dying every day, you're still going to die, but it prevents you from living. And that's the relationship that I've come to terms with, because I too have had a few, I don't think I've had 10 deaths, but I've had a few deaths over the last year and a half, and some were COVID related, some weren't. And it's just like, my relationship with death is like, yeah, I had a student, one of my yoga students, she said, it's the impermanence of life. And I was like, ooh, that's good. Impermanence. And, nothing is permanent until you're dead. And if you think life's hard, right, like, it doesn't matter. Like, you just keep going, and you have to really focus on living. And that's where I'm at right now, is, I don't know if I'm dwelling on this situation of, how do I live the life that I really want to be content with? And I feel like I love your hat story. That's so cool. That's like, it's a way to, remember, I don't know, in my mind, like, death's all around us. And like you said, it's helping you remember to live.
It's like, do these things for the people who can't. They're no longer with us. That's there's now I'm blanking on his name. Oh, this guy Scott, who is part of the Crow agency tribe. He is a big trail runner, and he came out and ran with a few of us from the Cody Run crew. And his Instagram is Indigenous. Oh, no, I'm not going to get it right. Maybe it's Indigenous Trail Runner. I'll put it in the show notes. But he came out for a dance performance, and also to kind of backup dance for this guy, hip hop artist Superman. And in one of his posts right around that time, he's like, it's all about, why they dance, is they dance for those who can't. So the sick, cool. The sick, the elderly, the ones who have died, the ones who, are injured or too young to, or too, whatever it might be. And he's like, and that's also why I run, is I run for those people. And I think that's really been significant for me in doing, in a lot of different things, whether that's pushing myself, right? Is not everyone has the ability to go see these places or do these things or test themselves, and not that everyone would want to, but if that's a desire that you have, then do it for those. It's when we talked about I get to, right? And so I think that's important to remember when that hard day at work, well, at least you get to go to work and do the work that day. And whether that's on so many different levels, that is really significant, I think, to consider.
Absolutely.
But it's Yeah, I don't know. Well, actually, September last year was when I was out for my one friend's funeral when both of our mutual friends committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's Suicide Awareness Month, so that's a good reminder and to reach out to us, to anyone.
Yeah.
If you don't want to talk to someone there's hotlines for that. But exactly what you're saying is we're humans in the human experience, but all of that is impermanent in two ways. One is, right, it ends unless you believe in extended consciousness. Right, it ends when we die, but regardless, our physical experience in this body, in this life, ends when we die. It's impermanent, but also within the human experience, everything is impermanent. And it's knowing that those dark days are not forever. And sometimes you have to endure a lot, but it will cycle through.
Yeah. And just to add a little bit to that with, so there's a few thoughts that I have. So first, if you're struggling, please reach out. You're this. Sorry, I'm getting choked up. This world is better with you in it. It is 100%. Whether you want to believe that or not, it's better that you're here. And it's going to get better. It will. And knowing that life is impermanent and that you can die today, tomorrow, right? In 80 years. Don't just reach out if you're having problems. Reach out, period. And say the things that you, right? I just made a post about this on Instagram, and it was because of all this that was going on. But say the things that you want to say, right? Don't hold back, right? Tell your friends you love them, right? We've talked about this a bit on prior episodes, but say the things that you need to say. Don't leave the thing that you want to say left unsaid. Don't assume that your friends know that you love them. Right? Tell them as often as you can, right? Don't assume that you don't make an impact on this world, because you do. And I had a friend, and that's one of my assumptions that about myself that I assume often, is that I don't make an impact on this world, and I really don't have an impact on this world. And that's something that I'm working through. But I had a friend after that post that I made on social, call me up, and he was just like, wow, I was touched by the post. I wanted to call and let you know that. And then I also shared it with a friend who's going through a hard time. And she's a single mother, and it was what she needed to hear. And in that moment, I was like, holy shit, why? And there's so many things that I go through with my imposter syndrome, and why would what I have to say impact her? But it did, and I can't take that away, right? And I have to acknowledge that, and but know that you my point is that you make an impact, and I say often you impact the world, and you're I don't impact the world. Yeah, you do. If you impact one person, that's the world, right? Because it's that ripple effect that we've talked about, right? That one person now decided to live another day. They decided to push through their hard times, and they decided to treat their kids better, and whatever it is they decided to do because you made that impact. And there is ultimately a ripple effect. And you mentioned this with COVID and these lockdowns, and I have not been shy about talking about my views on these lately. But I'm sick of the lockdowns. I'm sick of the mask mandates. I'm sick of mandates in general, because exactly what you mentioned is happening, and people are dying alone, and people are experiencing life alone, and we're losing touch with the human connection of being able to read nonverbals. Nonverbal communication is I think it's like 80% or something like that of communication. And part of that is your face, is reading your face. And when we wear these stupid fucking masks to cover our face, right, we lose touch with who we are and the impact that we're making in the world. And like we stop seeing people smile, and we've stopped seeing, you know, people use their expressions, and we're masking up our children, who rely so much on nonverbal communication, you know, and whether they're toddlers and they still don't understand words yet, you know, their nonverbal communication via facial expressions is huge. We're masking up our children, you know, in grade school level. And yeah, I feel like we are, I don't want to say dumbing down society, because I don't believe that, but I feel like we are hindering society to live, right? We're so afraid of death. We've become, I don't know if we've become, we've allowed this message of death to prevent us from living. And yeah, like I've had people die from COVID. My mother almost died. She didn't, thankfully, right? But she almost died from COVID. And yeah, I still 100 times will say I'm not wearing a mask, and I'm going to go see my mother, and I'm going to enjoy the time that I have with her, because she could die and our family can die, and this life is about being connected, and I'm going to be connected to my people. And if you want to be part of that, then great. And if you don't, well, I'll tell you where to go. I won't do that on the show, but call me personally. I'll tell you where to go.
Don't worry, they'll probably avoid you.
Right.
Because that's what we've created. Is,
yeah.
Right? You're the enemy now if you don't agree with what my
Sadly.
experience is.
Sadly.
So,
and
so
that's,
you can just say it and they'll avoid you, don't worry.
Right. right.
You don't even need to tell them to go to.
Yeah, you don't, sadly. And it's sad, and that's one of the messages I'm also trying to get across, is like, it's not ill intent. Like, I have zero ill intent in saying these masks are stupid. You didn't hear me say they don't work, right? I'm not saying that, right? I'm saying they're stupid. I'm saying they're taking away from our human connectedness in society. They are dividing us, right? Like, you're yelling at me because I'm not wearing a mask. Like, get over yourself. And right, they're doing things that we shouldn't do. And my message after all of that is, like, I still love you, and I still want you to make your impact in the world. And I still want you to come to my yoga class, because I believe in you, and I believe in human connection, and I believe that, you know, I was having this conversation with my wife's cousin up on the mountain in Alaska. We went for a hike, and we were talking about this, and we had opposing views on things, and our conversation was very respectful. But shit, I just had a brain fart. Help me get it back. Hiking, talking to my cousin.
Masks.
Divided.
Enemies.
Yeah, fuck. God damn
Experience.
It. Shit. Fucking getting old. That's the one thing. I feel like I'm getting old. I feel like I'll lose my mind sometimes. I don't know what I was saying. If you have something to add, please feel free.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I just, what we've said before is we forgot the human in all of it. I think yeah, I mean, there's nothing really more to say. And I don't know if the masks add to that, because I'm a firm believer in that anonymity. I can't say that right.
Anonymity.
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 I usually say it really well. Can't say it well today. But I think that leads to a lot of poor treatment of people. And I had this theory of when I moved to LA from New York, I actually felt that because people are always in their cars and they're protected, they can do things they wouldn't do to you on the subway. I mean, obviously there were jerks on the subways doing things, but why can they cut you off? They can flip you off. You can do all these things because you're anonymous, and you have this car to protect you.
Yep.
Whereas in New York, right, if someone does that, like you might get it back. But even to take it a step further, it's why I want to live in a small town, is because you can't be anonymous, right? You are held responsible for your actions. And so then you also get very connected to the humanness of people who maybe think differently. I think it's freaking hilarious that I had a friend recently who was talking about, basically she was saying a rural area was close-minded. Like, and this isn't in Wyoming, but, you know, she was like, yeah, it's just, you go out to this rural area and it's just a different world, and they're, you know, so close-minded. And I wanted to say, and I didn't, I wanted to say, are they close-minded because they just have different opinions than you?
Right.
Like, in my instant reaction is, you are the closed-minded one. Because you've already put them into a category based on the fact that they have a Trump flag, you know, on their front lawn, whatever it might be.
Right.
And they're closed-minded. And I was like, take those words, and like, you won't talk to them. You think they're a certain way. You're not seeing the human in them. Right. And we've done that with everything. We've done that. And we've had that episode talk of the anti versus the doers. And now it's like, you can't even just not do something. You're all of a sudden anti if you decide, you're anti-mask if you decide, I don't want to wear a mask. Like, I don't care if you wear a mask. I just don't want to wear a mask. Or I don't want to get the vaccine. So I'm an anti-vaxxer versus, I don't care. I'm not telling you not to get vaccinated.
Right. 100%.
And vice versa.
But
like, it's just become this, again, like, we've lost humanity in labels. And I know this, like, stemmed from like I don't know, it's sorry. Oh man.
No.
Oh, gosh.
Keep going.
Go there.
No, it's fine, and it's all related, right? Because I don't want to put words in your mouth, and if you want to keep going, please keep going. But all of the things that you're saying is right. Like, and again, everything we say is from our experience. It's not about being anti anything. Like, I'm not anti anything. I'm actually pro freedom, pro choice. Like, you have the choice to do whatever the fuck you want to do, and just give me the same respect. And then let's have conversations about it, and let's talk about it. And that's where, like, I love the conversation that I was having with Jessica's family. And I don't remember that point I was trying to make earlier, but, you know, is that we were able to have those respectful conversations and respect each other. And respect the humanness that, you want to wear a mask and you believe it's helping you and providing you a better quality of life. Great. I support that. I want you to wear your mask. Right. Because, I still want to see your face. I would rather see your face and your smile, but that's the decision you've made for yourself and your family. And then the same thing with the vaccine is, like, I don't care what you do. And, you know, these are just these topics right now, right? Like, in 5 years, it's going to be topics of different, maybe, hopefully, God, I hope it's a different.
Next summer, it's going to be something different. This is what's happening right now. This is, if you can't see the political agenda behind all of this, like, I'm sorry, but they're finding whatever they can to turn us on each other, to make us not realize that we all want the same things.
Yeah. And that's it. That's it right there. Oh, so that's also that. Thank you. You nailed it. You brought my point back. I got to say it before, right? We all want the same things. That is beautiful. Like when you look at the left, the right, the center, right? Not the extremists. I'm not talking about, right, the communists. I'm not talking about the fascists, right? Even though we confuse those, right? We get very, very confused about communism and fascism, right? And like we use those words way too much, right? Like, and we're like, oh, they're a communist, oh, they're a fascist, and right, but that's not what I'm saying, right? Like when we look at everyone who's on the political spectrum, doesn't matter. We all want the same thing. When you ask people what they want, right? It you know, and when you really get to the root of it, that's the key. Is people like, well, I want people to wear masks. No, you don't. You want people to be healthy. And I want people to be healthy. And you want people to live a life of health and wealth. And you want them to live a long, prosperous life. That's what we both want. Now, the method of getting there and the conversations that go into that are very different. But we all want the same thing.
Yeah.
And we've lost that. And the point I was going to make earlier is that I truly believe, right, and we've talked about this, but I truly believe that all people, or I'd say a very large majority of the people, have good intentions. And we are not doing things to be malicious, right? And I'm not wearing my mask because I'm trying to be malicious, right? And you're, right, like, I'm not saying you, but you, right, you're not telling me that I need to get a vaccine to be malicious. Again, it goes back to we all want the same thing. Now let's learn to respect each other, respect the human, and let's strive to get those things. And let's quit allowing whoever it is. I believe it's the media, but right, turn the fucking news off. Stop watching the
I
fucking
think politicians
news,
I think it's politicians through the media.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I believe that. I think the media is the tool, right?
The tool.
And
money drives.
Yeah.
I mean, think about who funds, like who controls our content, and then who backs certain politicians.
Right. And it's all that. I don't know if you have anything to say. Do you have anything?
No, I mean, the one thing I would expand off of, and this is, I have to give credit to one of my teachers, Kamini Desai, is she actually believes beneath all of it is that we all just want to be loved.
Yeah.
And so any way that shows up that feels malicious or feels ill-intended or anything like that is, it really comes down to the core missing of like that separation from love, from self-love, from love from others, all of that.
100%. And in all this talk, so I've talked about death in my last few yoga classes because of everything going on, everything we've already talked about. And I've talked about living and life, and I've come back to love. And I love that. This is why we do this show, because like we're always so like complimentary, I believe, right? Like we talk about the things, and I believe we know where we need to go next with our conversations, and I totally agree, 100% agree that we all want love. And I was before I went to Alaska, I was on the road a bit for work, and I ended up in Phoenix because it was just closer to be in Phoenix than to drive to come home. And I was in a gas station at night, and I forgot about this story. I totally spaced this story. I didn't remember this story, this thing happening that I'm about to share, until I was in yoga class talking about death and talking about life and talking about love. And I was in a gas station. I was waiting in line. I was waiting back from the register. There was someone checking out in front of me at a gas station convenience store. And these kids walked in. 4 kids walked in. And I use the term kids very loosely. I would probably say I'm terrible at guessing ages. But I would probably put them in the at least 16 because they drove there. They didn't have adults with them. So at least 16, anywhere up to probably like 20. So young adults, teenagers, tweenagers. And the four of them walk in, 2 boys, 2 girls. And I knew I made a judgment based on my life, right? And the judgment, my initial judgment was, oh, heathens, right? And it's not a fair judgment, right? Because I was that kid, and I'm gonna explain deeper, right? But like you just right, like hood up, like wearing a hood up, right? You're making these judgments, and like you'd be totally fucking wrong. And I just made a judgment, right? Initial sight, right? We do it. We all do it. To say that you don't, you're a fucking liar, right? We all do it because that's our instincts to keep us safe. It's our instincts to judge a situation very quickly, and it's what keeps us safe. Anyway, I digress. So I made this judgment of, oh, look at these hoodlums, right? Like, and that's all I said to myself is, oh, like, damn kids, get off my lawn, right? Like, I'm turning into a grumpy old man. And the first boy walks by me, and he looks at me, and I knew, like, he was, I don't know if he was, like, trying to be funny or joking or what, but he looks at me, and he's like, I love you. And he didn't know who he was saying it to. That's the thing. Is, like, he didn't know who he was saying it to, because without missing a beat, without skipping, like, without hesitating, I looked at him and was like, I love you too. And he stopped. And like he had what became like this like funny look on his face, like, you know, like, oh, I'm going to tell this guy I love him. It's going to be funny and my friends are going to laugh, right? Turned like stoic, and he like looked at me and he's like, that's cool, man. I've never had anyone respond like that. And he gave me a hug. And I was like, okay. And the interaction ended, the friends walked by, and they're like, oh, that was really cool. And I forgot about it until class.
Yeah.
And I remember the story, and I remember thinking I was that kid. Mm-hmm. And I can make an assumption about that kid. And he just wants love. Mm-hmm. And that was me. And I just wanted love. Mm-hmm. And yeah. And I was like, wow. Like, and it was funny. I was in my yoga class talking about this, talking about death, talking about life, talking about love. And then I had to deal with my fucking trauma, my own trauma of this while I'm teaching yoga. And I shared that. I'm like, great. Now I got to deal with my trauma and still teach you guys yoga. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like trying to process, and I've had time to process, but I thought I'd share that story.
Yeah. I mean, we all have our mechanisms, right? Mm-hmm. To get that love. And that's the funny person, the rebellious, mm-hmm. the I don't need anyone, mm-hmm. the I'm going to be the best at everything. I'm going to be the loudest at everything. Mm-hmm. There's so many different iterations of it, but all of that is just to experience or find love. And I think, just from my yogic perspective and belief, and this is my own, is we're seeking it outside of ourselves until we realize that it's always in us. Mm-hmm. And that's what, for me, my practices are a reminder that it's always in there. I don't mm-hmm. need to find it outside of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. We are love. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that, it's powerful. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that if you want to kill yourself or harm yourself, and when you realize that, like, you have the ability to love yourself inside of you, like, that's so incredible. Mm-hmm. And that's when you get to start sharing it with the world. That's what I mean when I say, like, he didn't know who he was saying it to.
Yeah. Like,
he had no clue, because I guarantee, like, his response of no one else has said that to me before doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, fucking love yourself, man. Like, mm-hmm.
And we're humans, and it's hard, and it's not always there. But just know it's always in there. That love is always, and so that's that back to that impermanence and the cycles. Is that we're never, no matter how much you meditate, no matter how much you run, no matter how much jiu-jitsu you do, no matter how much you do the things that you love to do and that help you experience that or feel that, we're humans. And we're going, and we're in the human experience, which means we won't always remember that it's there. And so it's when you're not experiencing that, just remember it's there. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't forget that it's there, and do what you need to do to get through those days.
And that's so powerful. Yeah, because and what I'll add to that, and this is the last thing I'll say, and we can wrap up if you want, but when you don't remember that it's there, that's when you need your people. That's when you reach out to your people to remind you, and hopefully you have great people in your life to remind you that it's there, because it is. And I don't like hard and easy. I prefer using the word difficult versus hard. And I'm not going to get into that. It just goes to word choice. Goes back to our word choice episode. But when life gets difficult, and it's going to, know that you need to set the right things in your life to be able to work through those difficult times, and hopefully you have those people, and you have us, and you're able to use whatever tools that you have to remember that, because you're going to forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Most likely.
You're not alone. I think that's huge, is you're not alone.
Yeah.
Like there's that quote, that story quote, and replace God with whatever you want in the quote, but it was, the person was up, I don't know, talking to God. I don't know the quote exactly, and saw the footsteps. Yeah. They're side by side, and then they were called the dark days, and was like, where were you? Where were you during that time? I just see one set of footsteps. And he responded, well, that's when I was carrying you.
Yeah. And,
and that's if you're spiritual, the source, like, it's love. It's the people around you, so whatever your belief system is that there's times that it's okay to be carried.
Yeah.
You are not alone, and you don't need to do it alone.
Mm-hmm. And don't be afraid. And I go back to what I said earlier. Don't be afraid to tell people that you need to be carried, right? Mm-hmm. In the terms, quote, you need to be carried. Don't be afraid to let your people know what you need in your life, and communicate, and just talk and share those things. Cool. So, journal prompt?
Yeah.
All right. I want you to write about love. You can write about death too, right? We talked a lot about death, but in death, right, we find love, and in life we find love, and what we've, in our trip up this ladder, or up this pyramid, or whatever you want to call it, right? Like, ultimately we just want love, and that's what you should write about. So grab your journal, grab your diary, your little I love this person, right? Like, maybe that's on there. Grab whatever it is that you're using to journal, and first write what you think love is, and how you express love, and just how you want love shown to you. And yeah, just write about all the things that are love, and how did your parents express love? Did they not? Right? So many of us, I believe, grew up where men, right, as a man, we're not supposed to say I love you, and that was just generational issues, not using tools that we had. that, societal issues. But, maybe you're in that crowd and you're listening and you're like, I can't say I love you. Well, all right, write that down and just write about love. Write about how love has touched you. Write about my story. Write about Bree's story, right? Bree shared a lot of love today with her story of her friend who passed away. I don't think I have a hat that's 10 years old.
Oh, no, this is more than 10 years old.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think I have a piece of clothing that is longer than that. So
actually, no. Yeah. It was 10 years after, and now it's been probably, golly. Yeah, it's probably been. So, no, it's not quite 10 years old, the hat. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Go.
Anyway, but no, don't be sorry.
I'm oh my gosh, when was that?
Yeah, the point is that, right? Like, how do you, right? Like, that's one of Bree's ways of showing love to herself, showing love to her friend who can't show love anymore. And it's cool. It's, as I talk about it and think about it more, it's how her circle of friends does things too, because her friend, to send her a hat, knows what it means to her. Right. And that's cool. So yeah, think about one more thing I want you to add to this is whatever side of the aisle you're on, right? I don't care. I don't give a shit. I really don't. Think about how your friends, your family want to show you love and how they love you. And maybe their views are different. Right. And maybe you're getting so fucking caught up in take your mask off or leave your mask on or get this vaccine or don't get this vaccine or right. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Like is at the end of the day, is that love? And at the end of the day, is that the mark that you want to leave on the world? Right? Is that how you want to be known, how you impact the world? And if you die tomorrow, if you're looking down and you're reevaluating everything that you did in life and you're looking at the love that you gave, is the argument that you had online with someone about not wearing their mask or wearing their mask or, whatever, right? Like whatever side you're opposite of, like, is that how you want to be known? Is that how you want to live your life? Is that the impact that you're going to have on the world? And I doubt it, right? I severely doubt that that's the impact that you want. It's not the impact I want. So I'll wrap up there. Cool. Say thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bree, for being amazing. Yeah. It was so good catching up, and we'll chat soon.
Sounds good. Have a good one. If you want to follow us and our adventures, you can find both of us on Instagram. I'm at Bree Allison. That's BreAllison.
And I am at The Life of Alan Tatone, _ between each word. To check out our offerings, yoga, one-on-one trainings, workshops, retreats, and a recorded library, you can find the info on our website, thehunterandthehippie.com.
If you have questions for the podcast, about the podcast, feedback, suggestions, or just want to say hi or find ways to work with us, our email is thehunterandthehippiepodcast@gmail.com. And don't worry, all of this will be in our show notes.
Thanks for tuning in.
Hopefully you weren't tuned out.
To the Hunter and the Hippie podcast.